Disclaimer. Any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. And today I welcome Larry, and I'm excited for our conversation on all the work Larry's doing, all the writing Larry's doing, and the stories he's out there sharing. So just a quick introduction to Larry. So Larry writes thrillers built on real people's lived situations and human stakes. After retiring as an Air Force officer, he spent 19 years as an aerospace systems engineer designing large-scale intelligence systems where failure wasn't an option. A discipline that shows up on every page: tight plots, clean lines, credible tradecraft. Larry is a nationally certified spiritual director and graduate of clinical pastoral education, and he served as an on-call trauma chaplain. Sitting with families in their hardest moments taught Larry how choices echo. That's why Larry's characters don't just fight, they face the consequences. Larry believes a story should help us live better, not just turn pages. Larry also brings 9 years of personal Alzheimer's caregiving. So, welcome to the show today, Larry. Glad to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh, amazing. Well, sounds like you've been writing and sharing some big experiences in your life, getting your word out there and sharing these things. What inspired you to first start writing? Has that always been something you've done?
I've done that for many, many years. Usually what I've been writing are short essays, sometimes not so short, but essays and other short writings. They weren't really published because they weren't large enough to really be published, although at some point in time I may gather them together in a book of different essays. But this story that I started with, Palm Tree, that book, that I wanted to write down and publish a particular religious perspective that I had. And so I just felt a need to do that. So I sat down and wrote out that perspective. And then when I was done, there it was, one page. Well, what do I do with one page? And so I said, well, I have to build a story around this. Well, if you have to build a story, then you have to have some characters, and you just can't have characters regurgitate what you put down. So they had to have some conflicts, and it went on, and pretty soon I had the story, the Palm Tree, coffee shop extraordinaire, and that story brought together the two antagonists that went into, or not antagonists, but well, it had them in the background, but the two protagonists that were in the second book, the past always comes back with the tagline, to help you or kill you. And so it's their continuing story, and I pretty well look forward to making a third story because I've always seen those characters in a trilogy. So anyway, that's what got me started, a little thing that ballooned and grew and grew.
So a trilogy might be on the cards.
It might be on the cards. Right now, we're just focused on The Past Always Comes Back, the second book, to make sure it gets out and is seen, and of course, it was purchased.
So what's The Past Always Comes Back? I like that title. What does that kind of mean, and what's that book about?
Well, the two characters, again, in the first book, The Palm Tree, they resolve their traumas and their particular demons that they have to work with. But the one main character, Michael, has a large background in covert operations in Europe and bodyguarding as well as covert operations while he was in the Navy. That's his past. And Anne's past, the other protagonist, she's this mild-mannered, religiously centered person, and they're living a good life together. And so in the past always comes back, the past out of his past of working against people who were trying to assassinate the person that he was bodyguarding for. They, over many years, have a grudge that's been growing and growing, and that's his past that comes back to kill him. And his past with doing covert operations and all of that sort of stuff, something he wanted to put behind him and never think about again, is what may save him and save both he and his wife, Anne. And so that's the past always comes back to help you or kill you.
Mm. Good title. That's an interesting title. I like that. So, yeah. What, yeah, are there any, I mentioned about you have like been in caregiving with like Alzheimer's, and does that feature in the book at all?
The caregiving and the care that you provide for another human being, while they may have been in your life for a very long time, and you have a commitment to them, once they get into a place where they no longer recognize who you are and are no longer capable of taking care of themselves, it's easy to walk away and hand that person off to some other caregiving facility. But you have a commitment and you have a desire to provide care to another human being, even though they don't know who you are and they've lost their identity. That care and commitment is carried forward into the books. People are real and they have commitments to each other and they care for each other. And that's what you do. It's real people doing real things.
Mm. So the care, yeah, the caring element is part of some of your characters in the book.
Yes. They have a commitment to each other.
No. How do you like find writing these books? Do you like, because I'm intrigued when someone's like written a book. I've written books as well, and it's just like, do you find yourself in kind of flow that it's all kind of like effortless and you're enjoying it, or do you ever kind of get stuck when you're writing a book and blocked?
When I'm in the groove, so to speak, and I'm in the flow, yes, the words just flow. And then you come up to a hard stop and you can't think of another word. And the person that helps me out the most, has helped me out the most in that, is my wife. She's my first line editor. And so when she'd be gone for an errand or what have you, and I'd be working, she'd come back, the first thing she'd say, "Do you have something for me to read?" So she was always there asking if I had something brand new to read that she could read. And it just kept me going. When I had no other words, her prompting would bring forth something new. So we worked it as a team. She could probably almost tell the whole story verbatim. She's read it so many times.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, someone to prompt you along the way. But yeah, so yeah, like, are there any sort of like characters in the books that you based on yourself? Or
I would like to think that I was the protagonist. Michael, it is the one who has that history of the covert work and all of that. You know, that's a fantasy for me. I never did that specific work, although I have worked at one time. I worked for a number of years where my boss was a medically retired CAA field agent. And so we had a lot of stories together. And so I've drawn upon some of his experiences, but I write about them. I haven't done them.
That's always the creativity that gives freedom, I find, and adventure when you're writing these characters.
Right. Well, I listen to them. I've worked with a number of people who have worked in the intelligence area one way or another. And I listen to their stories, but I don't try to retell their stories. So I listen to what they did, how they felt, where they were at, those type of things. And I can incorporate that type of information, but I am not in the mode or wanted to even tell their stories. That was their story to tell, not mine.
I've got you. Okay, so like you're basing these characters a lot on feelings and moments these people are having, but you're not rewriting their whole entire story. Got you.
Correct. Exactly.
Makes sense. Okay, that's cool. Has anyone ever asked you to sort of write a book for them?
My agent keeps telling me I need to write a book about myself and all of the experience I've had. But right now I'm kind of busied up with all of the marketing and moving things forward. Ultimately, what I'd like to have out of this whole process of interviews and campaign advertising and what have you, ultimately my desire is to have a movie or a TV deal out of this for this series of stories. So anyway, I'm busy working that right now.
Yeah.
A new book has to take second priority.
Yeah, lots of moving parts at the moment to kind of get yourself up, get it out there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, a third book sounds exciting in that. I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot of experiences to kind of like share in it as well. Do you ever get caught in like perfection when you're trying to get like these stories out of like, oh, I've got to get it right, or do you just kind of allow whatever comes out and then looking at it later? Because I know a lot of people get caught up with perfection when they're trying to get this kind of story out there.
Well, the story, one of my criteria for writing thrillers, any type of a story actually, is that I want the characters to do credible things that real people would do. There's no superheroes in here. There's no magical shifts. All of a sudden they have this particular piece of information or this piece of equipment or whatever it might be. No, these are characters that do things that an average reader, a reader of thrillers would say, yes, that's the way I would do it if I were there, or that makes sense. I never thought of that, but that makes sense to do. So perfection is, I guess perfection's in the mind of the reader or the viewer, such that if it's credible, reasonably credible with real people doing real things, then that's perfection so far as I'm concerned.
What do you find is your, if there is one, like the biggest challenge of writing these books?
Putting down the full outline of it, the macro picture of how the story is going to go. I always have a lot of individual little vignettes about, oh, this is a scene here, this is a scene there, oh, they did this, but they're just dots that are not connected, and getting that connection before I start really filling in the spaces between them, that's getting that first connection between the dots is the most difficult thing for me.
Yeah, connecting the dots, that makes sense. Do you ever worry about, I know some people were like a little bit worried about like judgment, whether they're putting something out there, including a book. Do you ever worry about judgment of others, or are you just like happy to get your book out there and share your message?
Well, I just put it out there. They can judge it however they want.
Mm,
I'm not concerned about their judgment. Um, as an author, I would, what's my objective here is to give a book, a story that gives a sense of fulfillment to the person who reads it. It was
mm,
exciting, it was credible, and it made sense to me. And I like that story. Uh, I'd like to have another one. Uh, and if I accomplish that with a reader, then I've accomplished my goal.
mm,
And if a reader doesn't like the story, that's all right. That's their choice. That's not something I have control of.
mm.
So,
I love that mindset and that approach, because the reason I ask that is because a lot of people get stuck on like sharing something of themselves. It might be a book, might be something else, and it's,
mhm,
oh, what are others going to think? But I love what you just shared, and the focus is purely on like, oh, I get to share this, I get to create a sense of fulfillment for someone out there, and that's a
mhm,
completely different focus from like, oh, what are people going to think about my work?
yeah, I don't worry about that
No,
other than the fact that I want to sell the book.
yeah, of course.
Have them purchase it.
Yeah, of course. No, that makes sense. Are there themes of, do you talk about like themes of like loss in your book?
Say that again.
Sorry, do you talk about loss in the book at all? Because I know lots of people can be hurt by like sort of loss and things like that. Um,
Mhm. One of the things that happens when you have characters that have a commitment and a responsibility for each other, as in a team or what have you, but you're in a situation of kill or be killed and that sort of thing, there is always anticipatory grief that says, some of us are probably going to die.
mm,
And they are people that you count on. You expect them to have your back. You expect them to support you just as you would support them. So there's always a sense of potential loss there. That's the anticipatory grief. But, you know, loss is always a possibility when you're in those type of situations.
mm, got you.
And I don't have any hesitation in writing that in. I just don't try to make it mass mass dying and all of that sort of stuff. These
Sure.
are small, tight teams, and once in a while, a person gets killed
Mm, sure. Got you. What's your
because
favorite? Sorry,
that's
carry on.
reality.
Mm,
That's reality. In that type of a situation, you don't go in and all come out perfectly fine at the end and go have a beer. It's things happen. There are consequences for being in that type of a situation.
mm, mm, of course, and just portraying that in the book. What's your favorite thing about getting these stories out there?
I think the one big point for any author, they can write a book, have this sense of it, oh, this is a magnificent manuscript and all of that, and you send it off. What makes it real and is the major pivot point is when they say, we just got it published and here's your copy. And you have it in your hand. And you have that book there,
Mm,
the first one, and you say, this now makes it real. All of it before was hopeful. Now it's real. And that's the major pivot point, at least for me. And when the book is there in my hand. And after that, then it's the mechanics of making it available to the world.
mm. What guidance, Larry, would you give to someone who wants to like be an author, wants to share like a story or like get a book out there, but they're like, oh, I've no idea where to begin. Like, how do I start writing a book?
Mhm. Everybody has, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Authors have a number of different approaches to that sort of thing. Some people outline it to the nth detail, and others just start writing at the first. They say, where do I start? I think I'll start with this person doing this thing. And, you know, generally for thrillers and that sort of thing, there's a catastrophe up front, and they write about that. And so, well, now what do I do? And then go on from there. And they work scene by scene. Others just go through and make it a bullet point outline of what they're going to do. So my advice to anybody who wants to write is if you have no other guidance, sit down and just start writing about a character or a situation. Put words on paper, actually put them there. And once it's there, then you can make a decision about those. Oh, I don't like those. Well, what words would I like? You can put those words down. Or if I do like that, well, what would be next? You know, and you just get started, regardless of whether you like it or not. Just put words on the paper, and that'll get you going.
Just get words on the paper. That's awesome. How, yeah, how do you kind of unwind or recharge when you've like feel like you've done so much writing or you come up against a block?
I usually go away and do something else for a number of days and just let it sit and percolate in the back of my mind. And if I get up to a place where I don't know what to do with the characters at this point, I have to let it go. And sometimes that's a whole week or more. And then I come back and say, well, there it is. That's what I wanted to say. And I can pick it up and generally get going again. Sometimes I just have to have my wife read it over and say, well, why didn't you say this? It triggers a new idea, and we go on from there. So,
Gives you some more guidance. I love that.
well, just a different idea that may not play at all, but at least it's a departure point rather than where you ran into the block. A different place to start looking at it.
That's awesome. Yeah, like what's kind of the main feeling, if anything, you want the reader to take away from your books?
I basically want them to feel like they've had a story they really enjoyed, that it was exciting, and that it was actually they felt fulfilled in reading the story. It was complete. It didn't have loose ends out there that so well, why didn't they do this or why didn't they do that? No, I want them to feel fulfilled and complete with that story and satisfied with it. That's where I want the reader to be, because that reader will say, I'd like something more from this author.
And then, yeah, that's more of yours. Do you write short stories at all?
I'm sorry?
Do you write short stories?
I have written a few short stories, but they're very short. And as I said earlier, the really short story like that is not something that you're going to publish unless you just put it in a magazine for a 500 word type short story or what have you. I've written extensively on Alzheimer's training, caregiving and training. I've given training on caregiving for Alzheimer's. And I've written a number of very short essays they're all about 500 words on different aspects of caregiving, and those were distributed back when I was actually doing that type of caregiving. But those were distributed out, and my essays on Alzheimer's caregiving and have been distributed fairly widely from coast to coast. And there are groups that have caregiving groups and support groups that have used those for background information for their people. So, but I have written some short stories.
How does it, and how was it sort of writing about Alzheimer's when you've written those?
When I wrote, when I wrote about Alzheimer's care and my life within that sort of thing, I really considered those as therapy. You know, writing about my experiences was a way to unload those and not keep them all bottled up. And, you know, there's a couple of 3,000 word essays there that I have on my website, coffeecuppublishing.com. They were therapy. Let's just put it that way.
Getting your words onto like a paper and kind of like, sharing.
That's right. Well, unloading it that way, yes.
Oh, amazing. And plenty of people out there who need to hear that, and as caregivers for that, I'm sure, and going through that. So powerful. Like, my grandma went through it before she passed away. So there's many people out there who are sure need to get hold of that work.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's on my website. It's just coffeecuppublishing.com. Coffee Cup Publishing is all one word. On my website, those stories are available, and that writing about Alzheimer's is available there, and it's free for anybody to download and distribute as they wish.
Yeah, I'd love to kind of just wrap up by knowing where your links are and everything like that. So, like Larry, Coffee Cup Publishing is the best website for people to get your stories, and is also that the best place to find your books?
Yes, and it's the best place to buy the books. The Palm Tree book is available on Amazon, and the Past Always Comes Back is available through my website. And you can buy it right on the website using various ways to pay for it.
Oh, amazing. Sounds like you got a lot of great things to read. Well, I know you've got a lot of great things to read on your website, these stories and your book as well.
Yeah, both books are described there, and reviews are there, blogs are there. There's a number of things.
Larry, I love your passion for writing and what you shared with us today, and your insights as an author and your creative process. So just a big thank you for everything you've shared today and what you're putting out in the world.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate being on your show.
Absolutely. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.
You bet.